What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Run Your Race show with your host, Akeem.
And Chanelle.
Easter.
Yes.
I figured we could start off this episode since it is Easter. We're recording this on Easter Sunday. What does Easter make you think of? What does it mean to you?
Yeah, I think when I think of the word Easter, I think of hope. And on Friday, when Jesus was nailed to the cross, it was a dark time. It was a hopeless time. But then on Sunday, when he rose from the dead, it was a wonderful time. It was a celebration. Hope was restored. So it's just a reminder for me that if you are in a dark time right now, just cling to hope and know that dark times don't last always. So just take it one day at a time and just remain as hopeful as you can be, and the darkness will come to an end eventually.
So what are 3 things you're grateful for today?
Didn't know you were going there. I am grateful for my health. Had some seasons where my health wasn't at its best. So just grateful for my health, grateful for my circle, which includes, of course, you. But I just have a solid circle of friends and family that always show love and support. So shout out to all those people in my life, my close circle, and grateful for just provision. Just there's so many people who go without. And so I'm just grateful for things that we often consider small. Food, clothes, a car, just try not to overlook those things because a lot of people don't have what I often overlook.
It's a good scrabble word, provision.
Mm-hmm.
So Easter is always a special time. Obviously we are Christian, but even if you're not, people still can enjoy and take this moment to slow down. And I think that's one of the things that is why it makes Easter popular for those who are not religious in that sense. This is a holiday. Most times on holidays, people spend time with the family, those that they love, or maybe they just, sit around and just relax and take a moment to get a couple naps in. So it's just a great time of the year. I just feel like for people to just slow down, right? Because you can get stuck in the cycle of life that you don't appreciate life. And I think that's one of the things that I am always about is the appreciation of life itself. So happy Easter, everyone. I hope Easter has been great for you. I hope it was a great time with family, relaxation, and just to slow down a little bit and enjoy the present moment.
Hey, you didn't do your 3 things you're grateful for.
Well, you didn't ask me.
I'm asking now.
I'm always going to be grateful for life. Because I think life in itself is the gift. Anytime that you wake up and you can breathe, that in itself is the blessing. I'm also grateful for the people that I've met in my life, whether they are here or they're not. There's 7.7 billion people in the world. And the fact that you cross certain paths, whether they've impacted you in some way or not, but your paths were connected, of those 7.7, man, it's not a coincidence. So I'm grateful for the people who I've met in my life. Whether they are here in the flesh or they're not here, but they're still here in spirit. I think the third thing, as you said, is the people in our lives, you included. I don't use the word friends lightly. That's just never been my thing. So for the people in my life who I do consider a friend, and for those who have been supportive in any capacity, I'm grateful of that. I don't take anything for granted, as we don't take you that are going to watch for granted. We don't take any of that for granted, because I'm cognizant of the fact that people don't have to do anything. So I'm grateful for those that choose, because life in itself is always a series of many choices. So would love to know what you're grateful for. 3 things that come to mind. Let us know in the comment section below. Let's talk some track and field, because it was a busy weekend in track and field. A lot of relay events attached to it, talking about Florida relays, Texas relays, Raleigh relays, whole bunch of different things. I think we should start in Florida. Why? Because it's hot. So when we think about Florida relays, I've competed there 2016 going into that Olympic year. It was my first time competing there. A lot of fun, a lot of people. Florida relays, what were some of the highlights for you?
First and foremost, shout out to Miss Joetta, who sent me a text and said, hey, you still hold the meet record in the 800 for the Florida relays. So that made my day.
Hey, what did you run?
2 minutes something, I don't remember exactly, but it's from 2015, so almost 10 years standing strong. So yeah, shout out to Ms. Joetta for that great reminder. So one of the highlights for me was the high school 400 meter runner, Quincy Wilson. He's continuing his amazing indoor season and bringing it right into the outdoor season. He ran 45:19 at the Florida relays, and everyone's just talking about him because it's not normal stuff, right? So there's just talks about, will he make the Olympic team? I just hope he's enjoying it. Hope he's not putting too much pressure on himself and just keeps getting better and better, because I think he's only a sophomore. So he still has a long high school career ahead of him. So shout out to him. He's someone we will probably bring up many times on the show just because he's a special, special talent. Florida relays, another highlight was the men's 4x100 meter, the professional heat, where we saw Gainesville Elite show up and show out. Gainesville Elite, I believe, is for professional athletes who all train in Florida. So they're from different countries, but they all train in Florida. You have Holloway, Austin, Fonboulet, and Knighton, and they put together a solid 4x1. It's probably not something they practice very often, but they went out, they were in 37:67, a very respectable time. So shout out to them. I would say those two things really stood out to me from the Florida relays.
37:67. To put things into context, like 2016, we got bronze and we ran 37:64. So like that just goes to show what they ran. Like that's moving. I have a question for you before I talk about some of the highlights for mine. Quincy Wilson, one of the main thing why he is so talked about is not necessarily the time, but for the age that he's running this time. You were running similar times like this in your respective event in the A as a 16, 17-year-old young lady growing into a woman. You had the opportunity to go to the U.S. trials, but you were not an adult. Like you weren't supposed to be there. And I think at the time it was probably World Juniors that you could have probably done. So this is going to be a question for him and his team and his family. Man, do I go into the fire in that U.S. trials? Because, he not only has to worry about the pros that are there, but the collegiate athletes as well, too. So he's running extremely fast, but, that's a lot of pressure as well, too. Looking back, and this is advice for him or maybe, just insight into what is going on inside his head. Looking back, do you regret you and your coach deciding to go to U.S. trials and not make that World Junior team, which you probably would have won? Or would you have went through with it? Because this is the type of questions that he's probably asking himself right now.
I don't even think he has World Juniors on his mind.
Okay.
The interviews I read and that I watch of him, it's all Olympics. I want to be an Olympian. And I think that is amazing. Get thrown into the fire, do it. Like I said earlier, I hope he's still enjoying it and not putting so much pressure on himself. And I wish there was a way, let's say he didn't make the Olympic team. I wish he could be like an automatic qualifier for those World Juniors, because that's not a meet to sleep on. That's still an amazing meet to go to. I'm not really sure if the qualifying meet for World Juniors is the same time at the trials.
Gotcha.
So he may miss that. But I don't think I regret it, getting thrown into the fire, running against those pros. It was a lot of fun. I just wish, like I just said, I wish there was a way for me to have been since I didn't make those teams, to then be an automatic qualifier for those world junior teams, because those would have been fun to experience as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that's the thing why I asked, because I would hate for him to choose to go to the Olympic trials, which he seems like he is going to do, and then his season just comes to an end, right? So, I think he has a great possibility to make it at 45:19, man. That's a fast time, still early, but I would hate for him to get to the trials and maybe he gets 8th, or maybe he doesn't make the final. It's like, what, his season is done? Like, so that was my only question. I never had those fast issues, so that's for fast people stuff. So for me, I go to about a couple events. One, for me, Favor Ashe is back. Man opened up 9-9. He would have been the favorite in the 60 if some things didn't happen, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about what happened on the track. 9-9, Coach Ken Harden, man, the man can coach some sprinters. So you would think that now he is got to be one of the favorites, especially opening like that. And he looked good. The race looked very well executed. So that's one for me. The other one, too, is my fellow Canadian, Audrey Leduc, 11:08 win legal. Man, I did not see that coming. And I didn't know much about Audrey Leduc. But a time like that makes you want to know a little bit more about Audrey Leduc. Like, that's a great time. I know we've had a bunch of women sprinters running 11:0 windy, but not win legal in the recent years. Like, that's an amazing time. And hopefully she can continue to build off of that. So one more that I think that I would share too. I would say Jamisha Ford, South Carolina, that women's team is strong. I think 22-3 for her as a freshman coming in. She's predominantly a 400-meter specialist.
Is she?
Yeah. She does before. She ran 51 here as well too. So dangerous.
Yeah.
Dual threat. So there was obviously a bunch of different other ones too, but those are some of the highlights that kind of resonated with us the most. What are some of the highlights for you if you were able to check out some of the Florida relays? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. We could spend another 10 minutes probably breaking down that, but we got to keep it pushing because there is more races, more like Texas relays. What stuck out to you here?
Man, shout out to Gabby Thomas. She opened her season with a banger. She came in with the 100. It was a little wind-aided, not much, but she ran a 10:88. So she has to be happy with that. That's fast, right? And then came back in the 200 win legal 22:08. So like I said, she has to be happy with where she's at late March. It's a long season, so hope she stays healthy. Hope she just keeps progressing and progressing. But I thought that was definitely one of the highlights of Texas relays. And then similar to the 4x1 Gainesville Elite that I mentioned in Florida relays, we had some professional women that all train in Texas that came together and ran a phenomenal 4x200 meter. Not an event we see often, but they ran a world best. I guess we can't call it a world record because they're not all from the same country, but a world best of 127.05. So that was Alfred, Adeleke, Thomas, and Asher Smith. That's fast. The fastest ever, right? We can't call it a world record, but it's the fastest ever ran by a group of 4 women. So shout out to them. Shout out to their coach. Glad to see that they're all healthy. And then they came back to win the 4x400 meter as well. Same team.
So conditioned work.
Yes. And then the fact that they're all training partners.
That's a strong team.
Yeah. And Dina Asher Smith, she recently joined this coach in Texas. And I watched the 4x4 and she looks strong. So I'm really hoping that she has a solid season because she's fun to watch. Also, shout out to Valerie Allman. I don't know much about the discus, but I know she dominates year in and year out, and she went out and threw a 67.98 meter discus. So again, just a solid start. People are opening their season, and it's always nice to open with a nice mark, a nice run, a nice jump. It just gets you excited for the rest of the season. So shout out to Valerie.
Texas relays, there is so much happening every single day once the event starts. You're talking about high schools, Division 1, 2, 3, men's, women's, and then you incorporate the pros in it. So there's so much things happening. It's one of those things that we could talk about Texas Raiders for like 2 hours because there's so much. And so for me, some of the highlights for me, was Pablo Mateo from France, 992 windy, 2003 legal. Like that's a massive personal best for him, considering his indoor time was like 20.8.
Right.
All right. So for him to come out and how he ran, man, that 99, even though it was windy, it looked good. Like it looked smooth, highly executed. He was even a little surprised he went that fast. But 2003, I mean, that's not a time to joke around with, especially if that's your season opener. So if he can stay healthy, that's the thing with Olympic season is there's always new faces that may seem like it's coming out of nowhere. It just starts to click a little bit more. So that's one of the highlights for me. One of the other highlights was Elijah Hall Thompson, who ran 10.0. The reason why he was on one of the highlights for me is because this is the NCAA record holder in the 200 meters. Man ran 20.0. So that comes with a certain level of expectations and standards. And he's gotten hurt over the recent years coming out of college. So he hasn't really been able to fully capitalize on it. So for him to come out and look like this early, it's like, man, if he can stay healthy, he will be that guy who he is supposed to have been coming out of college. The potential is there. I also got to give a shout out to Emmanuel Matadi as well, too, who ran 10.04 and anchored his team to a 38 something in the relay. So bunch of fast times, bunch of fast performances. And this is what the outdoor season is about, man. Opening up well as best as you can and putting the pressure on everybody else. Like, if you're a sprinter and you see somebody already dropping a 20 or a 19.9, I know for me, you're just like, oh, geez, this is going to be one of those years. So those were some of the highlights for us in Texas Relays. Would love to know what some of the highlights are for you. Let us know in the comment section below. Let's keep it pushing. It's a bunch of different schools who did not come to Texas Relays. And one of those schools was LSU. Why? Because LSU said, look, we're going to put on our own type of relay at the same time. LSU Battle on the Bayou. What were some of the highlights for you that you saw? Because this was a stacked meet.
I got one.
Okay. She's tough.
I got one highlight. It was, of course, an 800-meter runner, Sam Whitmarsh from Texas A&M. He moves up to the 8th fastest time ever in the NCAA outdoor, 1:44.46. Like you said, his competitors are now like, whoa.
Wait. 144?
Yes. So now he's set the mark, and it's like, wow. That has to feel nice to break 145 season opener. That was my highlight of the meet. Shout out to Sam. You have a new fan. I'm going to be watching you the rest of the season.
Man, that's crazy. That's got to be Olympic standard, right? Maybe, probably.
I don't know. That's a good question. It has to be. I would hope so. Sub 145. Yeah, I would hope so.
So I got a couple more performances. Got to give a shout out to Chris Robinson from Alabama. 400-meter hurdler opened up 49.13. I mean, if he continues like this, I mean, this is the 48 is going to be there very soon. So spectacular performance from him. Also my alma mater, Alabama. So roll tide. Christopher Morales Williams, 45.18. It's always going to be interesting when you have a target on your back, and when you run as fast as how he did indoors. It's with that expectations now where everything is going to be spectacular. We're expecting of that. People are expecting of that. But this is a very good performance here because indoor there's the bank, yes, but there's no wind. There's no crosswind. There's nothing. But outdoor, you got to battle some of the terrain and some of the circumstances out of your control. So I felt like this was a very good opener for him. And two more for me is that women's 100, talking favor of Feely, 10.85, Brianna Liston, 10.87, Mackenzie Long, 10.89, Thelma Davis, 10.98, all sub 11 seconds. A little windy.
A little windy, not too bad.
I mean, 2.6 is not bad.
Okay.
So,
all right.
So if you take away 2.0 wind, Favorite Feely is still sub 11. Brian Liston is still sub 11. Mackenzie Long is still sub 11. So what a spectacular performance.
That's amazing.
This is what you want to see.
Yeah.
And I thought that holds weight. So a great performance. And last but not least, going back to my Alabama man, 4x4, 3 minutes, almost 3 minutes flat. So
that's a good start.
Anytime you can start that fast, it's beautiful. So that was some of the highlights for us at LSU. Again, so many other great performances. It's hard to pick. We can't talk about everybody. We don't have enough show for that. But some of the highlights that were there for us. What are some of the highlights for you? If you saw it, let us know in the comments section below. So many different meets, so many great performances. But on the Run Your Race show, we can only pick one or two. You know what I'm saying?
Sometimes we agree.
Sometimes we agree.
Not this week.
No. Performer of the week. Who is that for you?
I'm going with the high school athlete, high school girl, Elizabeth Leachman, 5K runner. She ran 15:25 at the Texas Relays, a new high school national record. Shout out to her.
Explain that to me.
Okay, so you understand a 5-minute mile.
Yeah.
That's fast, especially for a high school girl. She ran that 3 times. 5Ks, 3 miles. So she ran that pace, that 5-minute pace for 3 miles. Could you do that for 1 mile?
5 minutes? Now, when you say 5 minutes, do you mean like 5 minutes, like high, low?
500 flat, 5 minutes.
No.
Yes.
Consistently?
Yes, she's a sophomore. So just like Quincy Wilson, we're going to be talking about her again and again and again. Hope she stays healthy. Hope she, again, is having fun with it. They're young. Have fun. So, yeah, I have to go with her. A new high school national record, Elizabeth Leachman.
So, for me, it's 2.
2?
Yeah, I know. It's going to be Pablo Mateo. Again, 992 Windy and the 20-0 breakout performance for him to open up his season. And then Leslie Tobogo.
Okay.
1994, running into a headwind, negative 1.2. The man eased up the last 25 meters. He has the world lead in the 4 and the 2. And I think he's running the 100 soon. That's crazy. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, I feel like we're going to be saying his name a couple more times as well, too. So those were kind of the performance for me. I'm hoping next time I don't go sprint heavy. I can go somewhere else. But it's just hard to deny these times right now. And yeah, it's still early and we're expecting people to get better, to get faster, and they will. But this week I'm going sprinter heavy. And
that's okay.
Yeah, I don't feel no ways about it. Performer of the week. Let us know who your performers of the week are in the comment section below. One of the discussions we kind of not always have, but it's been said many times over, track and field can often seem boring to some, So it just made me think of the question of like, what are some ways that you think would make it more exciting? Or do you think that they are doing a good job of trying to get it there?
You go first.
So I would say for me is the thing I don't like about track and field sometimes there's too many like quiet spaces. Like it takes too long and like people are saying like, I think commentary is an art form. I think commentary has to be when people are talking about how do we make investments in the sport. I think you have to pay money for that and bring in people who are good with storytelling, people who are knowledgeable, people who understand, okay, we have 10 minutes before the next race. How are we going to fill this space? We're watching Florida relays, and when they're in between trying to change events, it's just quiet, nothing happening.
Yeah,
we're watching kids dancing down there, but like in the stands. We can see the stands, but it's just like, man, at that point, it's just like, okay, well, I'm gonna go for a walk. I'm gonna hit the gym.
I'm gonna
like,
change the channel. If you're a casual
I'm
watcher,
gonna change the
watching.
channel.
Yeah. I like that. Tell us about the athletes that are there, some of their accomplishments. Bring some of those pros that are just in the stands, maybe not competing at the meet. Bring them up to tell us about how's training going. You had Talitha Diggs there, Anna Hall there, Joetta Clark, a 4-time Olympian. Bring them up and let them talk. Let's hear from them. What do they see? What are they looking forward to in this season? So like you said, let's fill those gaps, because you're just watching a screen and it's boring, right? I also think that we need to make it a little bit more understandable to the everyday person. Like you said, break this down for me. What does that mean? They're watching people on a screen run fast, throw far, jump high, but it's hard for them to really respect the greatness, because they how fast is that really? They see a 10L. Well, what does that mean? What we could say, people love to compare things to the 40, right? Well, tell us en route to that 10L, how fast was that guy's 40? I would love to know that people can relate to that. Oh shoot, he just ran that fast en route to running his full 100. Let's make it a little bit more relatable. When the women are running the 5K, like you said, how fast is each of these miles? Because it made you respect it more when I said that this 16-year-old ran 3 5-minute miles. That's wow. The average person can relate to that a little bit more. So we got to make it a little bit more relatable, because it's hard to really appreciate the greatness that they're seeing.
That's good. I think it's making it practical. To saying, okay, so the average person is usually running this. This is what they're running. It reminds me of the story when I was playing in the CFL. And the reporter asked me, Akeem, do you think that you are the fastest person coming into the league? And I said, absolutely. And I got a lot of slack for that. And people were coming at me from all over the internet. I may not have told you that, but they're all over the internet saying, man, this guy, you need to play first and then talk after. But it's just like, no, my 60 time was 6:51. There's no one else at that time in the league that is even sniffed close to that. So it's not me talking out of my, what. It's just a practical thing, because the thing with track and field is why I don't think it's appreciated as much. It's kind of like what you said. If you see someone running 9.9 and you're at home on the couch, you're just like, oh, yo, I can do that.
Yeah, the people don't really get it. We got to, for lack of better words, dumb it down and really explain. Even in a long jump, okay, you jumped far. Oh, if you say this person just jumped the length of a car, then it's like, oh shoot. We have to dumb it down. And people they can't respect it, because they don't really understand how great it really is.
So I think commentary, obviously we know storytelling, but too much quiet in track and field is not good, especially when you're trying to get people to be intrigued by the steeplechase or the 5K or the sprints. You cannot just allow dead space, because dead space, changing the channel.
The Diamond League races do a better job.
Man, their commentary is great.
And the space in between the events is just
everything is just nice and quick.
Yeah, 2 hours of a meet. That's great. You can keep people entertained for 2 hours.
So that's, just want to have a conversation about that. I think it's always interesting to see, because at the end of the day, people always talk about how bad something is, but they don't do anything to kind of make it a little bit better. And I think at least if we can start a conversation about it, conversations have already been started, but consistently do it. If you say something enough times, hopefully change will shift. What are some changes that you are seeing or would like to see that you think would make a difference? Let us know in the comment section below. This is always a tough thing and a tough pill to swallow, because what happens when you don't start well?
When your outdoor season.
Man, but even in life, period, right? You start something and it does not go like how you thought it would. For example, you ever had a race where you just knew you were moving, you were rolling, and you looked up at the clock and you're just like, what? That feeling.
Yeah.
How do you not let that feeling get you discouraged?
Yeah. I think a lot of athletes right now are starting their outdoor season and they have expectations for where they want to be. And same with us. You're nervous for that first race. You want to start off hot. And I'm going to be honest, more times than none, I didn't start where I thought I was. And it's a hard pill to swallow. When I was younger, I would beat myself up. Oh, I'm not going to have a good season. Oh my gosh, I thought I was in, let's say, 206 shape. I ran 210. What's happening? But as I got older, you're able to shake that stuff off and realize, well, I didn't peak for this meet. I'm still training very hard. Yeah. I started to know, like, well, as the season goes on, I know I get faster. This was just a rust buster. It's not that big of a deal. Yeah, my competitors may be rolling right now. I can't focus on them. I got to zone in on my training and what the plan that me and my coach have. So as you get a little bit older, you're able to keep things in perspective and know, like, this was one of many, many races this outdoor season. I'm not going to compare myself to myself last year, and then I'm not going to compare myself to anybody else. I'm just going to regroup with my coach and we're going to keep things rolling, but try not to panic. It's a long, long season.
I started out hot once. and I didn't get better. So like my thought process behind it is there's a lot of pressure with starting out hot because now you're expected to always be hot, and some do that. But I was never in that category. So for me, I outdoors specifically, I would always look at, okay, what did I run last year this time? Okay, maybe I was a little bit slower, but how much slower behind? Maybe I was a little bit faster. Maybe I was about the same. And so the thing that you said is, well, what has the training cycle been looking like this time? Are you coming in loaded up? Are you heavy? Are you still lifting heavy? Was it crazy conditioning? Was the training working? So it's like you have to give yourself some grace because it's not always about how you start. You've heard it before. It's not how you start. It's more about how you finish. Well, it's more about running the right times going into those championships, right? I may not have started out very hot, but I gradually progressed, and at the right time, I performed well at the right time when it matters.
At the right time, when it matters. That's the type of stuff you have to remind. Not that it doesn't matter now, but does it really?
No. Like I always say, you don't want to run fast at the wrong time. Like you don't want to run. Again, if you open up fast, great. But would you rather, let me use sprinter words, would you rather run 9.7 in January, or would you rather run 9.7 in August when it's World Champs or Olympics? So, oh yeah,
I'd rather run them both, but that's hard.
Yeah. Again, some people are exceptions to that rules, but just because you don't start well doesn't mean you can't have a great finish. So you really got to give yourself some grace and just remember, yeah, I may not have started well, but the season's just getting started. It's March, well, April, because March is pretty much done. But there is time, and you have to keep yourself in the right state of mind. You can't take yourself out up here. And if you take yourself out up here, eventually your body's going to follow. So give yourself a little bit of grace and just remember and repeat to yourself some of that stuff that you just mentioned, right? The right time, the right time, the right time. It will come, but you got to make sure that you're mentally and physically there as well. So, not about where you start. It's how you finish. Cliche statements are cliche for a reason. So what are some tips that you have that maybe you didn't start well, but you finished well? What were some things that helped you bridge that gap to get to that point? Let us know in the comment section below. Again, thank each of you for taking the time to watch, taking the time to listen. We don't take your eyes or your ears for granted. We truly, truly appreciate it. Of course, share this with a friend. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and definitely leave some comments. So, episode number 8. It's over with.
It's over. A lot of good information. I thought so.
Thank you all. We'll see you next time.